For those who don't know me, I'm Jess Streeter. I'm a manager in AES Provisioning. So today, we are very lucky to have Diane Darling as our speaker. Her goal is to help you better understand what networking is and isn't. She got her start when someone asked her how she stays connected with people, and that was before LinkedIn. She realized that networking is a learned skill, and yet so few people were doing it well. McGraw-Hill commissioned her to write the definitive book on networking. It is now in 7 languages. She's appeared in the Wall Street Journal, NBC Nightly News, International Herald Tribune, San Francisco Chronicle, and MSNBC. She has lived in Colorado, the Philippines, Indiana, Thailand, Washington, D.C., Alabama, and now Boston. She has traveled to all 7 continents. On a surprising note to many, Diane tests as an introvert. However, she explains that she is a friendly, functioning introvert. Please join me in welcoming Diane Darling.
Thank you so much. And this is that awkward moment when I realized I sent over the wrong bio. We can talk a little bit about networking, but the main thing we're going to be talking about today is branding. So in case you're wondering if you're in the right spot, this is what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to do a quick exercise by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've already made up your mind if you like me. We have about 7 seconds to make an impression. And so this is why, for me, branding is so important. How we come into a room, how we talk to people, how we engage, how we start the conversation. And a lot of it is the nonverbal part of what we say. So if I showed up late, that's a problem. If I show up early, it's not too much of a problem, although you want to be sure it's not stalking weird early. And so what we're going to talk about today a little bit is branding. And when you hear the word branding, I'm sure I'm doing these slides, right? All right, when you hear, what do you think about Airbnb? Shout out some words about Airbnb.
Comfort.
Cheap. Convenient. Comfort. Easy. Anything else? Vacation. Anything else? User-friendly. So if I did this with people who were in their 50s and 60s, they would probably talk about dangerous, risky, uncertain if you're going to do that. I can see some people nodding their heads, yeah, not going to be me, right? I actually used to host with Airbnb in my apartment. When I would ever travel, I would have people stay in my apartment. And it came with my cat. And it was interesting how many people said they trusted me more because I was a pet owner. And then, but the very first time, I had some people staying in my apartment, and we just happened to have like about an hour or so before I was flying, and they were coming in. They were going to stay. And there's a knock on the door, and this lovely couple are, I'm expecting them. I open the door, and the husband is head to toe tattoo. Head to toe. And I just had to say, I'm going to accept the fact that I have a premonition. I mean, this was startling. And then they, all of the things had worked out on paper. And I'm like, why does this bother you? I had to challenge myself. Why does a tattoo make me think, oh, it might be unsafe? I turn around, and my cat is on her back having a belly rub with the guy. And I'm like, why am I worried? She's fine. So it's an interesting experience for me to be, and I do travel a fair amount, and I do use Airbnb. So when you think about Harvard Business School, what comes to mind? Intelligent.
Snobby.
Expensive. Sorry? Prestigious? Yes?
Snobby.
Snobby? Yeah. Yeah. What else? Intimidating. For sure. Yes. I've done some speaking engagements there, and I walk in there, and some students are so wonderful and so kind to me, and other ones let me know I didn't go to Harvard. Some of them have really let me know, boy, and they do have an advantage over me, without a doubt in some cases. But part of it is, how does that person come across to you? How do you feel about that person? Ancestry. What do you think about that? DNA, okay. What else? Family tree. Yep. Anybody done their ancestry DNA? No? Yeah. You find any surprises?
Yeah, not all the
You're not all Italian. Oh, did that bum you out? You were not all Italian? Yeah? What did you find out?
I was half English and half Irish, so I'm white.
You're white? Yeah, exactly. Big surprise, yeah.
My mom didn't find out she has a half sister she didn't know about.
Wow.
My grandmother had an abortion after the war, had a child after the war and didn't keep her, yeah. We just found her a year ago.
Oh my gosh, what a remarkable experience.
She's eating her Memorial Day weekend. Wow. Yeah, she lives in Ohio.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So when I did my ancestry, I reconnected with some cousins that I didn't really, second, third cousin. And when I was in Chicago recently, we got together for breakfast to find out that my grandmother and his grandfather had a double wedding. And all of these different stories came out. And so part of it is you have these situations, but all of it goes back to when you hear ancestry is that, they do now have a cause. You may find out things that are surprising, as you found out. I'm not sure they did that in the beginning. LinkedIn, when you think about LinkedIn, what do you think about that? Networking? Business, professional, yeah. What else? Jobs, yeah. What else? Career Facebook. What a great description. I love that, Career Facebook. So I've been on LinkedIn since the very, very beginning. My membership number, if you can find it, your membership number, mine's 16,418. It now has 500 million people on it. So I was a really early adopter. And so what I have found with LinkedIn is it's an incredible way for you to show your personal brand online. And an assignment you're going to get at the end is to spend some time on your LinkedIn. Because as other people look at it, so what happened with LinkedIn in the beginning was for networking, honestly networking. And then it got hijacked by recruiters, if you will. Then it was like, I don't want to be on there because I don't want my boss to see me because I'm not looking for a job. I'm happy with my job, but if they see me there, maybe they think I'm not happy. Now, every person, every professional should have a LinkedIn profile. And you're going to want to update it, But this, again, has a brand. It's a career Facebook. It's a professional place. All right, so I was working on this. I kept getting emails from Jamie, and one of the things I really, really liked was she had an upcoming vacation alert. The reason why I took a screenshot of this was she's thoughtful to say, if you're getting messages from her and you need something, don't be upset. And here's something and so she was letting people know. So to me, that was an interesting moment of her to choose. You didn't have any idea you were doing this, right? So to me, this was a personal branding moment. When you think about Jamie, what do you think about? Who wants to shout out some words when it comes to thinking about Jamie? Hard worker.
She's a boss.
She's a boss. What did you say? Responsible. What did other people think? Organized. What else? Considerate. A little shy. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. What else? Anything else? Positive. So it's interesting for you to think about what it is that people say when they hear your name. So I'm going to ask you to take a note on your clipboards or on something along those lines, and I'm going to encourage you to think about what are 4 or 5 words that you think about yourself. What are 4 or 5 words that come to mind that you would like people to say about you? What are 4 or 5 words that... So just take for a moment and do that. Now I'm going to ask you to talk to somebody who you haven't yet met, or maybe somebody you don't know really well. Pair up with somebody for a few moments and share some of those words. Can you stand up for just a minute, just a little minute? Stand up, move around, find somebody that you haven't. see. So what was it like for you to say to somebody, here's the words that describe me? Here's the words I want people to think about me. How was that?
Nice. A little bit.
Nice, coloring. Okay, what else? Refreshing. Anybody else? A little awkward. Thank you for being honest. Thank you. Thank you for being honest. All right, you want to know what's going to happen if we did this with all men? Let me just tell you how great I am. Here's the 5 words that I think are awesome, 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 awesome. I mean, come on. So part of where I'm going with this is I want to empower you, I want to encourage you to speak up a little bit more and to talk about your accomplishments. When I spoke at the University of Michigan School of Business, there was a woman who really, really struggled in my workshop about self-promoting herself at networking events and talking about herself. She was so authentic to talk about this, frankly, in front of all her peers, 100 and so people. And I said, what's your name? And I forget Susan, whatever else it was. And I said, so anybody here who can talk about Susan? And people were saying the most remarkable things about Susan. And so I looked at her and I said, so you mean you can solve all of those problems? You can help all those headaches for a business to go away, but you don't want to help me? This isn't about the words for you. This is the problem you are going to solve for me. And if that means you're responsible, boss, dedicated, fun, a little bit shy, that's all a part of who we are. But I'm going to really encourage you to not think these words are necessarily about you bragging on yourself. I'm encouraging you to think about this is the gift you give to other people. And also there might be aspirational words, or it might be different things that you haven't thought yet about that you want to do. And also in some cases, this can change. We can have a really, really good brand, if you will, and in a second, it changes. In a second, it changes. This is Felicity Huffman yesterday admitting guilt. Now, the person who I want to meet is her brother who she's holding his hands. I want to be single, never mind. But but seriously, talk about being there when the chips are down. Talk about being there when things are tough. And so part of what it is that as we identify our personal brand, reliability, accountability, authenticity. I mean, I thought it was a very amazing thing to watch this whole thing. When several people have come to me and said, are you surprised? I'm like, I'm not surprised about this story. I am sad about the fraud. I mean, there's differences between what's been happening, which is networking for a long, long time, that has been giving people absolute advantages. There's no doubt about it. It's different when it's fraud. In this situation, I thought it was interesting to see how quickly several people in this story were willing to take accountability and just say, hey, I did something really wrong. And other people are saying, you know what, I'm going to fight this out. So these things can change very quickly and very, and fast, and so it can go wrong. So if you don't like what your brand is, how can you change it? How many of you are Starbucks people? Yeah, and how many of you are Dunkin' people? Yeah, and how many of you are no coffee? Yeah, I'm a tea person, and I got to tell you, it bugs me. If there's only coffee people, no, let me have my tea. So an exercise I'm going to ask you to do with what we just did before, and you'll do this afterwards, is to think about 4 or 5 people who you would like to ask and have them be maybe your brand ambassadors, and also people who can help you figure out a little bit more about what your brand is and how it is that you come across. A number of years ago, I did a program for Fidelity Investments. At the end of the program, I always ask, is there any feedback? And they said, we love your program. You did a terrific job. The only piece of feedback we would give you, you need to dress more conservatively. Your suit was too artistic. And I realized afterwards, I was at Fidelity, fair enough. I probably should have had a black or a navy, and I asked a couple of different people, and they said, yeah, you know what, when you stood up there, I noticed your clothes and not you. And I thought that was an interesting piece of feedback. And so I thought, you know what, that's not necessarily, and I was hearing this recently more and more, that this is something that's coming up, is that you might, fashionable is one thing, but is it distracting? You know? So it was an interesting thing to have that. So what I thought was, what an amazing gift this person gave me. What a gift. Because now, I mean, I would imagine myself and, you know, calling Fidelity again and saying, you know, kind of anything you need. They're like, oh yeah, we need some training, but we're not going to hire you because you're closed. No, I can change my clothes. I'm honest. I'm a great trainer. I'm a good speaker. I give out wonderful information. That is consistent. My clothes can be different. So part of it was, I realized, and I have some fun pictures when I do this, when I do a longer version of this, of Tom Brady in a t-shirt and jeans, Tom Brady in a black tie, and Tom Brady in a football uniform. Well, we don't want to see him in the football uniform when he's walking down the steps at the Met. It's going to do like, dude, you had a head injury. You know, you're at the wrong place. Whereas if he's on the field and he's in a black tie, we're like, dude, you're going to get hurt. So part of it is you want to think about, at times, when is your brand to be maybe a little bit more persistent, a little bit more aggressive. Yesterday, of course, it's wonderful Boston. I'm turning in the corner. The guy in front turns too sharp. And you hit me. And I'm like, no, I didn't hit you. You turned in front of me, was the discussion. And it was, I think part of what was so interesting was I was just so calm. He wanted to hold up the bus and have, you know, wait till the police. And I'm like, I really don't think we need to do all of that. And he was like, yes, I'm going to wait here. And I'm like, okay. Finally, the bus driver comes out and says, buddy, can you just move? You know, so part of it was my brand in that moment was still calm, was still professional, was still appropriate. So I'm going to encourage you to do a survey with some people and identify what that's about. All right, I have a special spot in my heart for introverts. And some people think this is kind of a little bit of an extreme introvert, if you will. But when I was working on my first book, I spent some time at the Shyness Institute at Boston University, and I spent some time studying shyness. And what I was surprised to learn is the difference between shy and introvert. I was also a little bit empowered by learning that while I would never have thought of myself as shy, I realized that in some cases I do get depleted by being around a lot of people. So I want to talk about this with the branding, because one of the times I had an interesting moment of branding was after an event. There was a woman who came up to me and she goes, you don't remember me, but we met several years ago at this event. And I said, you know, I meet a lot of people, you know, nice to see you. I've learned to say nice to see you, not nice to meet you. And she said, and I've always wanted to tell you that you were actually kind of rude to me, and it bothered me, and I just felt, you know, you should know about this. And I'm like, okay. And the more we talked, the more I thought, I hope you're in therapy, but was one thought. But the other thought was that I realized what had happened was I had stayed at an event past my prime. I was burned out. And I was unwilling to say, I need to go home, I need to recharge. I thought it was better for me to stay at the event, chat with more people, even though I was depleted. And what she thought was that I was rude, and I was uncaring, and I was uninterested in her. And it was an interesting moment for me to step back and say, wow, I'm really sorry. A, that was certainly not my intention. Two, I learned a bit about myself to say, you know what, when you're tired, I test as an introvert. Anybody here from the Midwest? Any Midwesterners? No? Oh, wow, no Midwesterners. All right, if you go to the Midwest, you'll think we're crazy. We all say hi to you. We all talk to you. I'm from Indiana. We would chat with you. I run a group for ex-Midwesterners here in Boston, and one of the joke questions surveys we have is what happens when you call the wrong number the next night you have dinner? Because it happens in the Midwest all the time. Or you call the wrong number and you talk for 20 minutes and you realize you have friends in common. I mean, we just were super, super friendly, but we are not extroverts. But here in New England, everyone thinks I'm an extrovert because I am very friendly. So what I've spent some time is separating these and realizing that as an introvert, I will have a great time with you. I'm going to meet somebody for lunch. I've got another meeting at 4 o'clock. And then after that, I'm going to be like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I will be done. Whereas an extrovert will be like, where's the next person to talk to? Where's the next person to talk to? So introverts, cherish yourself. realize that you might need some more downtime. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means you get depleted a little bit more than somebody else does. All right, so now what I'd like for you to do is to think about what are some commitments you're going to make on your brand or on networking. And so I'm going to imagine it's 5/15/20. It's a year from today. Yeah, it's a year from today. Time's flying. What do you want to think you're going to be in your brand, or where is it that you want to be in your career? And I'm going to encourage you to think about maybe 2 or 3 different people that you would like to engage and say, I would like for you to maybe be a sounding board for me in the next year. What are some different skills that you'd like to do? The skill I'm doing right now, public speaking, is the #1 skill Warren Buffett thinks everyone should be able to do. Surveys will tell you that most people would rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy. They find this terrifying. I learned to get over my fear of public speaking because one of the first times I was giving a talk, there was a woman kind of your distance from me, and she stopped and she goes, I'm really sorry to stop you. I think you've eaten something you're allergic to. My neck was in red blotches. And I said, no, I'm just a little nervous, but thank you. And what I do now is when I was standing, when you're doing the introduction for me, I was over there doing deep breathing exercises. And so part of it was I learned to do different things to make myself feel comfortable. I was one of the first people here in the room. You all came into my space. I didn't have to go into your space. So think, is public speaking something you want to learn how to do? Is coding something you want to learn how to do? Is another language? What would be something, what are some skills that you would like to be able to do? And who are some different people that you can reach out to and say, these are some things I'd like to be doing in the next year? So if you can't just take maybe 1 minute or 2, and we will talk and write down what would be those skills, or who are some of those people who can help you out on that. Take a moment. And I'm going to queue up because we're going to have Q&A in about a minute, and I'm hoping that someone will have a question. I'm also going to do a drawing for a few prizes, so if you haven't put your name on the little card, please do that, and then we'll do a drawing for a few prizes. So if you got at least one person, if you have at least one person and one skill or one thing that you'd like to do? Anybody want to share what it is? What do you want to learn?
I want to become a mentor.
You want to become a mentor? Great. What an amazing gift to be able to give back, to become a mentor. Great. And what was the skill you thought you were most on the icebreaker when you were first coming in?
I think I'm funny and I think I'm easy to approach.
Okay, you're funny and easy to approach. Great. That's wonderful. Because what happens when someone's just like this? Unapproachable. It's amazing what body language will do. This to this. How can you, and also being funny. Humor helps a lot when things are definitely tense. But sometimes, you want to have some good humor that kind of calms things down, and sometimes it's poignant humor. Sometimes it's really you can deliver a line. When I did my neck was in the blotches, I took acting lessons at Cambridge Adult Ed. And I wanted to quit, but most of the class was non-English speaking. And I thought, I can't quit. I can speak English. And they're doing this in the non-native language. How could I be such a wimp to quit? And then my next class I took was stand-up comedy. And that's terrifying, but what you learn to do is you learn to deliver a line. You learn how to deliver a message. And sometimes you do it for comedy. I'm not going to be a comedian ever in a million years. But other times you learn how to do it with a sense of pacing, a sense of timing. Because often we speak so fast that we forget that the person needs to hear what we're saying, and then it comes back to them. So you want to be thoughtful about timing and how you say something. So great for you. Who else has a skill or something they want to share? Yes?
I want
to write a children's book.
You want to write a children's book. Right? Anybody here done writing or authoring? Yes?
Actually, my thing is I want to finish editing the novel I'm working on.
So finish editing the novel. So maybe you two can be accountability partners. Great. Anything else somebody wants to offer? Yes?
I want to learn how to network.
You want to learn how to network. Okay, specifically, is there something you want to learn that's...
Maybe just like learning how to and meeting the right people.
Okay. Terrific. There's charts in the back called How to Work a Room.
Yeah.
And you can also text to that number and get any of those, absolutely. And maybe at some point I can come back and we can talk about networking. Happy to do that. Anything else someone wants to share? Yes?
I want to apply to grad school.
You want to apply to grad school. Where do you want to go?
I'm not sure, but I want to get my MBA.
Okay. Anybody here have an MBA? Yep. Where'd you go?
Johnson and Wales University.
Johnson and Wales University? So when I spoke to the faculty at Johnson and Wales University one time, I said, who here's got an issue they're trying to solve? And I think we're going to do that in a minute, actually. And so this one man said, it sounds stupid, but when I left for something, my wife said, and when are you going to get rid of Grandma's car in the driveway? And he said, so I need to get rid of Grandma's car. And somebody else said, tell me about Grandma's car. And it was blah, blah, blah. And he said, great, I'll buy it for my teenager. And I said, how many of you went to a faculty meeting this morning thinking you're going to witness the buying and the selling of a car? So part of also what it is we have to ask and we have to be willing to share information because you never quite know what somebody else needs. All right, so that's a little bit of an action. So actually this is the thing we're going to do next now. Thank you so much. So who's got an issue you're trying to fix? Maybe something that one person said to me, my husband thought he could take off wallpaper and he actually can't. Anybody have an issue at home or you're having a problem? Yes?
I can't get my baby to sleep through the night.
You can't get your baby to sleep through the night. All right, so those two can talk about how to keep babies. Yes, I have no idea. I did not have children. I wish I could offer some help on that. I don't have any things. There's actually just see a video of a doctor who had a way to not put them to sleep, but get them to sleep. Be careful about how. All right, who else has something they're trying to fix or get something? Yes. Trying to figure out what to do with your 28-year-old. And is your 28-year-old living with you?
She moved out 2 years ago.
Oh.
She's still I'm know everything. There's nothing I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's things I don't want to know anymore.
Right. Yeah. So what does she do for work or doesn't she work?
She's a preschool teacher.
She's a preschool teacher. And are you willing to share, what's your biggest concern about her?
She seems like she doesn't know what she's doing with her life. She's all upside down. She just she's very confused. It's like all these texts about this, and then next thing you know, that's okay, and then all that text is then it's not okay.
Yeah.
It goes back and forth all the time.
Does she have somebody of faith, a minister that she can go to, or? No. Yeah. I'm dealing with this right now with my niece, and it's heartbreaking. She's a little lost and has left a wonderful husband who's a great guy, and it's one of those tough things. I think at times you have to love from a distance, and it's very hard. It's very hard. So if anybody else has that kind of thing, or I would say if you're a 28-year-old and you have some things that you can say to her, this is something that you could do, or this is something, I think it's great for us to have different generations in these types of conversations. It's been very helpful for me to talk to other people who are younger, who have said, here's what you should do with your niece, and other, because I'm trying to not be the parent, but I'm also trying to, be supportive. Yeah, but thank you for offering that. So if anybody else has anything, who else has something you'd like to maybe fix, ask, you're looking to network, you're looking to learn something? Yes?
This is very vague, but it's very specific to me. I feel like I have a set of skills that I want to really fulfill with empowerment, whether that's life coaching or producing art in some way. That's what I want to do more of. That's what I already do, but I want to do more of it.
Okay, the art?
Yeah.
So anybody have any ideas for her? Yes, in the back.
I make pottery, and I'm part of a.
Did you know she made pottery?
Yeah.
Because that expression was great. I hope you got that on camera. That expression was just awesome.
I like that. That's cool.
I'm part of a collaborative studio where we share kilns and wheels and so on. And I found it really helpful just to have a place to go where I don't necessarily have a specific time when I'm going to meet people, but we're all involved doing the same kind of a creative thing,
Oh, yeah.
and we all have a place to go to do it. And whenever I go, I see people that I'm friendly with, or I might see people who are brand new to me. But I found that really helpful in terms of just having a place to go, knowing I'm going to see people that I like, as opposed to just saying to myself, I should draw more.
Yeah.
I've never done pottery, but.
Well, so I think what's interesting with it, anybody here in the alts and the arts? Yeah.
I'm trying to get, I'm making a studio for myself in my room. Trying to make a studio.
What kind of
I do drawing, charcoal, acrylics. I like pottery.
So I think there's an interesting artistic granite community we might have discovered in this conversation. So part of it, there's also a group called the Arts and Business Council, was what I was going to share with you, and it's where arts and business connect. And it's a great forum, and if you don't know about it, it's a terrific group, particularly for artists who may not necessarily be business savvy or have some of the business tools. They changed one of the laws actually a couple of years ago in Boston that if an art gallery went out of business, oddly enough, the art did not go back to the artist. The art went to the state for sale. And so this was a part of changing some of these laws. So it's an interesting group. I was on their board for a while as a volunteer. But I would think what you're hearing with this is to have some conversations, to do that sort of an ask. What may be somebody looking for? No one's going to look at somebody and say, gee, you look like you need X. You look like you need to buy a car. You look like you might be a potter. I mean, those are not necessarily things that we necessarily say. All right, so to recap, their personal brand is fluid. We have Felicity Hoffman. A few years ago, she was kind of a fun, quirky actress, and now she's going to be going to jail. I saw Martha Stewart speak a few weeks ago. It was interesting to hear her story about, she shared the story one time about being in the jail yard and finding a tree and looking up and realizing it had apples. So she started picking the apples, and then she managed to get somebody to give her a knife so she could make butter, and then they took the knife away from her in jail. And I can only imagine Martha Stewart making apple butter in jail. But part of it is that in some cases, this is a very fluid thing. You are in control of it. You are in control of it. So I'm also going to encourage you to update your LinkedIn. Does it have a picture that looks like you, or are you in the witness protection program? Does it say what you do for Granite? Not what Granite does, but what you do. And think about it answering this. What problem do you solve for the company? How does that help the company? What are the benefits of that? And to ask for help. This is just kind of a brag slide of me. These are my books. They're actually in now 9 languages. These are just a few of them. And it's really bizarre when you write a book, but I can't read it. So I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me as your first outside speaker. It is such an honor to be in that role. And if I can stick around, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I hope this has been helpful. Thank you. And if you want to put your cards together, I'll grab them and we'll do a bit of a drawing. And any questions while we're kind of winding this down? Any other questions? Here.
Oh,
Thank you. Yes, question.
You spoke about your personal experience being an introvert and how you kind of overcome that. I think something I struggle with as an extrovert is kind of coming on strong.
Yeah.
In years I've tried to really dial it back, but I also don't want to not show my full self. Is there a way that you kind of navigate with introverts, how they can be in a room as an introvert?
It's an excellent question. Her question is, how can you be an extrovert, be your whole self without kind of dominating it? So I think in some cases it's your ability to read the room. It's your ability to read other people. I was at a dinner last week, and there was an extrovert, and she acknowledged she was an extrovert. She was also a mom, and we kind of had a little bit of a joke. I'm not a mom, and there was another woman, and we were talking about how just conversations get controlled about kids. And you kind of thought she would get the hint. No, she kept going and going and going. And then the other woman and I'm like, I said, do you have kids? And she goes, no. And I kind of thought that might help us. Nope, it kept going right back to the kids. So I think to one, you're self-aware.
Yeah.
The fact that you are self-aware is a lot. I think also it's important to have a buddy. Have a buddy. So the Wall Street Journal did an article about me and networking, which was good and bad because I shared how I get out of conversations. And the way I get out of a conversation is I have networking buddies. And let's say Alexis is one of my buddies, and I'll just do a tap of my necklace. And she knows if she sees me across the room tapping my necklace that I need some help to get out of the conversation. Yes, well, yeah, yes. So part of what it is in many cases what it is I think conversations and networking moments are like meals. At some point it ends, but the other person maybe is still hungry or they want an extra course, and I'm kind of like done. And it doesn't mean it's a bad situation. It just means at that moment it's done. And so I would encourage you to find a buddy. The New York Times actually did an article about this with somebody who was Asperger. And that he would call somebody out, and he had no idea he was being kind of a little bit abrasive in a meeting. And he got a buddy who would actually just put down the pen, and when the buddy put down the pen, that meant to the Asperger guy, drop it for now. You can bring this up later. So have some buddies. Yeah. One more question, and then I think our timing is up. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm an extrovert on a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when I studied the extrovert-introvert stuff, Johnny Carson, for those of you who remember who Johnny Carson, introvert, on-stage extrovert. Ellen DeGeneres, extrovert, on-stage, in-person, introvert. Be both. But I think it's also really important to not come across as unapproachable or not come across as rude. So I will say this acting workshop was really helpful because I just imagined myself playing a role in a movie where I was this person who comes in, and I also always want to be really approachable. And so I'm imagining myself thinking, how would I see myself? Would I see myself kind of, when some of you were walking in, I made a point to say, I'm the speaker. And I'm dyslexic. So I actually have something called a dyslexic introduction. I don't say my name first. I say something about us first. Today, what I would say is, I'm your speaker. If I'm with my cat, because I let her out in the hall, I'm the person with a cat. Let me get her back in the hall. You're good too. My name is Diane. Parents get this. My mother had no name for 20 plus years. She was Diane's mom. She wasn't Ann Darling, she was Diane's mom. So part of it is, I think in some cases, having these moments to empower yourself. What I will say to you, and this is a fun thing you can do in New England because we are a little bit more of a conservative audience or a community, is you can test this curiously enough on the T. So what I do is I have a map of Boston with me on the T, and people will tell me all the cool things I should do in Boston, and they will all approach me, and they will all have conversations about different things I should do because I have a prop. So I'm going to say to you, the next time you see somebody with a map, approach them and give them some different things, the things that they can do. Whenever I see people with a map in Boston, I say, can I help you out? I just want to be a friendly person and a helpful person, and also I have fun. Where are you from? What language are you speaking? What brought you here? It gives me those practice moments. Do you know how to drive a stick shift?
No.
Who here knows how to drive a stick shift? Yeah, what happened the first time you drove it? Yeah, it's stall and most people, I've never met anybody who learned how to drive one on a BMW. You learn a car you don't care about. So my point is on the T, you don't care. If they're friendly or not friendly, who cares? They're going to get off and say, I'm going to get off at the next stop, and here's where you should go visit. So they hear, here's what they're going to get rid of you. And I have to say, this is a fun lab to do this in, because if this was Iowa, you'd have a dinner with them at home. All right, thank you so much. I'm happy to stick around. cards and we'll do a drawing. Here. Great. All right. You want to draw? You're all drawn. Okay. Okay, so we've got Tracy Miranda. Tracy. All right, you're going to get a book. And Nancy Thang. Nancy Thang. All right, you two, I've got books for you. All right, thank you so much.
Hey, guys, don't leave.
Hi, how are you?
We have announcements. Just when you thought it couldn't get better. So, afternoon, everybody. For those of you guys who don't know, my name is Alyssa Steen. I'm a supervisor in ADS Prof. So first of all, thank you so much for coming out. That was great. Can we get some clap around? So we really appreciate all you guys coming out to the event today. I know it's a nice, informative, and fun thing to do during lunch. So I just want to come up and let you guys know what we have in store for next month. So that way you guys can all start getting as excited as we are. So we recently just partnered with Dove, not the soap company, so Dove is an independent nonprofit organization that provides assistance to victims and survivors of domestic violence and to their kids. So they provide a huge range of free confidential services like a hotline, emergency shelters, support and educational groups, legal advocacy, it goes on and on and on. So they're great. So from June 3rd through June 21st, we're going to host a drive here at Granite to collect a lot of really needed household cleaning and kitchen items so that we can try to help as many women, children, and their families as we possibly can that go through the Dove program. So we're going to post a full list of the requested items that they sent over to us ahead of each box, and we're going to put giant boxes right next to the elevators in each building so you guys can help out with donating to help all those lovely people. And then we're also going to be having a guest speaker from Dove come out on June 26th during lunch, so it'll be the same time as this one, to host an educational panel on domestic violence in the workplace. So it'll be a really good opportunity to learn about any potential signs or how you could approach a case of domestic violence in a safe and professional way. So we hope to see you all for that and be on the lookout for all those donation boxes. So thanks, guys.